So hello again, everyone. We are very happy to welcome you today for our SFDR webinar. We have 45 minutes together, so we try to keep the presentation up to 30 minutes and leave some questions at the end. So you feel free to ask your questions in the chat, and of course we can take also questions at the end of the presentation. So here is the agenda. I think we will first cover an overview of the financial regulation landscape, and then deep dive on SFDR challenges and definitions. And then, of course, describe how SWIP can help you in this adventure before having a testimony from one of our clients, Astanor, an impact VC. So today, I will be UMC and one of the speakers. I'm with Raphaël Retier, one of our finance carbon experts at SWIP. And we will be joined as well by Leslie Capin, Director of Impact and Sustainability at Astanor Ventures. So first, for the ones who don't know SWIP, maybe a few words about SWIP. So we are a SaaS platform that helps financial actors to pilot their climate and ESG strategy. We started in 2020 with carbon management platform, and then we extended our solutions to have everything in one. So we can manage carbon and climate trajectory, but we can also collect ESG data and act on other metrics than carbon. We are now 100 people across the world. We raised $100 million the last year to be able to continue to develop internationally and to add new features on the platform. So SWIP for Finance was launched last year, first on finance emission. Then we integrated the ESG module, and we will launch the biodiversity module in Q4. We are, of course, a big up company, meaning that we really want to help our clients to set targets and have an impact, because that's our mission, and we really want to help you in this challenge. We are part of the financial ecosystem, the Sustainable Finance ecosystem. We are a proud member and signatory of the UNPRI. We are following the PCAF methodology for finance emission. You can follow any SBTI targets, financial institution targets, private equity targets on the platform. You can report on TCFD. We really want you to help reporting on sustainable finance standards and regulatory frameworks. So first, maybe a bit of context before jumping into the SFDR regulations. I don't know if you heard about Fit for 55. So the European Union said that the emissions should be cut by 55% by 2030 in comparison to 1990 levels. I think that's key to understand the context, because everything will be interlinked between all the EU regulations already in place or coming up. The European Union paved the way for more sustainable investments in fields like renewable energy, biodiversity, circular economy by passing the Green Deal in 2019. But the ultimate objective is to achieve climate neutrality overall in Europe by 2050. So the Green Deal comprises a public investment plan of 1 trillion euros over, between 2020 and 2030 in order to meet these climate goals. But despite these huge investments, the EU also depends on the support of private sector to achieve the Paris Agreement. That is why the European Green Deal set up a lot of targets and regulations and emphasize the importance of sustainable finance. So you can see here that the EU Sustainable Finance and Action Plan has 3 main objectives: reorienting capital flows towards sustainable investments, mainstreaming sustainability into risk management, and fostering transparency and long-termism for economic activity in order to achieve sustainable growth and inclusive growth. So there's different frameworks to classify what is a sustainable investment, to implement that within different frameworks, like MiFID II, for example, helps to even for the final investor level to understand their need in terms of ESG criteria. Integrate that into like more broader framework, like the Article 29, at the French local level. But what we want to look into today is the disclosure on SFDR. I think what's important to understand as well is the interconnection. Because everything is linked. It is good to have consistent frameworks across Europe, at least between ourselves, we are consistent. The Sustainable Action Plan includes like different goals. So you can see that, for example, EU taxonomy, CSRD, and SFDR are the three main regulatory frameworks, and these are closely interrelated. The EU taxonomy provides a classification system for sustainable economic activities that is applied within the CSRD and within SFDR. So we had a webinar about CSRD yesterday, so I won't go too much into details. You can watch the replay if you want, but the CSRD requires companies to publish sustainability metrics about their economic activity. So for example, companies affected by the CSRD must include indicators amongst other like EU taxonomy aligned share of their turnover, of their capex, of their opex, and they will need to report this economic activity in their CSRD reports. So the key figures and information based on the EU taxonomy will be integrated into the CSRD reports, in the coming years. For financial companies affected by the SFDR regulations, they will need to publish taxonomy-based metrics and disclosure for ESG financial products. So if you need to report full or partial objective of making sustainable investments, well, you will need to comply, with defining if the economy you finance is taxonomy aligned or not. But you can see, it's a circle that in order to determine the required taxonomy figures, financial company will need to look for the information in the CSRD reports of the company in which they invest, and the CSRDs that are also relevant for those SFDR regulations. So everything is interconnected, everything is consistent in terms of definition, and that's why at the SWIP level, we will help you to collect all this data and integrate this report. But for CSRDs, like there will be, now there's a consultation, but we were talking about 1,000 data points. For SFDR, we come just after in the definition of what is requested, but there's a lot of data as well. As you can see, for these regulations, transparency, data quality, data collection will be key. And that's why SWIP can help, and that's why we chose to launch SWIP for compliance, for example, to address all this new regulation. Of course, when we talked about ESG data, especially for financial actors, there's different challenges depending if you're a listed fund or unlisted fund. Listed funds, you've got that all these, publicly listed equities or corporate bonds, sovereign bonds, etc., high liquid assets. But there's a lot of discussion about like perimeter, scope, how to report. For unlisted funds, the data challenges is a bit different because there's no publicly available data. So you can't go to an ESG data provider and collect this data at a larger scale, because like this unlisted company, this private company, you need to go and engage a dialogue with them to collect this information and try as much as possible to standardize what you collect to be able to report at portfolio and fund level. So that's where we will focus this webinar today, to address the challenge for private markets, how to connect and engage a dialogue with your portfolio companies, and how SWIP can help you do that. So now I'll leave the floor to Raphael for the deep dive on SFDR.
Thank you, Marianne. Nice to meet you, everyone. So let's deep dive into the Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulations that was effective in 2021. So that's quite a while, but as we know, there are ongoing discussions to make this regulation a good fit for everyone, and we will go into more details of what happens into 2023 on these subjects. Overall, this regulation has three main objectives. Basically, the main one is to increase transparency and then to avoid greenwashing and foster sustainability. As you well understood, thanks to Marianne's explanations, all the EU regulations are interconnected. And so the increased transparency will also help different actors to exchange data. For example, SFDR will need CSRD metrics to be a success. So yeah, the scope of implication is quite huge, actually. It's all the financial actors that are marketing or selling funds in the EU. So it's really a common concern and a common objective. And the implications are really to redirect capital flows towards a more sustainable growth and help investors make better financial decisions. Because if all the financial actors are explaining what do they do, how do they handle the double materiality subjects, and how are they doing on a regular basis, this will hopefully redirect capital flows to the more sustainable actors. So yeah, the main implications are really to increase transparency and classification because it's the first step to put labels in front of funds and to really have specific commitments to meet, and to start the standardization of disclosure reporting. It's hopefully a critical subject and above all a super interesting subject on the private markets that we are focusing today. The standardization doesn't really exist yet on the private market, so it's a really huge step forwards to collect this data on the non-listed companies. And then it's all about integration of sustainability into the investment decisions, into all the financial reports and pre-contractual disclosures all financial actors will disclose to their investors. And the main goal also is to promote all sustainable activities. There will be also penalties for non-compliance actors, but I think that's still a work in progress at the country level. But indeed, there are some mandatory things to meet. And actually, what better to do this webinar the day before the first PI statement tomorrow. Good luck to everyone. And yes, there will be a second step next year to really start doing comparison year-on-year reporting with historical data. So a lot to come. Let's go into more details in three main subjects that SFDR makes, and three definitions to really remember today. The first one is a first step to classify the products. So as you may know, into the SFDR regulations, there are some articles and obligations that covers all the financial actors. Everyone has to meet them and to answer them. So it's basically from Article 1 to Article 7, and then after Article 9. So you will discuss with the EU regulation the choices of the articles, but basically that's it. And so all the funds that are not Article 8 or 9 has to answer everything except 8 and 9 articles. And then there is this first step to enable the more sustainable actors and to flag their fund into two additional classification, Article 8 and Article 9. We will go into more details just after. Then the second definition, it's really the sustainable investment. That's a super hot topic because what is a sustainable investment in the end? And that's actually not a really clear subject yet. We'll go into also more details later on what happened in 2023 in terms of clarifications. And last but not least, the ESG indicators to report. So all the financial actors, they first need to explain how they deal with the negative impacts their investment can have, but they also need to report it on a year-on-year basis, the principal adverse impacts. So then on the product classification, so as you understood, there are three levels of commitments. So every fund needs to commit to the Article 6. And of course, if the financial actors are not Article 8 or 9, we'll say that indeed they don't want or can integrate sustainability into the investment process, but they will still need to explain how and why. Then the Article 8 promotes the fund. Article 8 promotes sustainable ESG characteristics. So they need to explain how and to report how. And then Article 9, as we call it, the more virtuous. They are all the funds that have a sustainable investment objective, so they can explain what their definition of a sustainable investment is and to commit to invest in this type of activities and companies. And as you see, the repartition between these three is quite biased. Of course, the majority is Article 8 today, and minority is Article 9. There was also some, I would say, big events last year that a lot of Article 9 funds went into Article 8 because the definition of a sustainable investment was actually hard to comply with. So there was some news on that, and we will go into more detail on the 2023 news because, of course, that's something that is a bit changing. So next slide. Just to mention that the process of defining and calculating a sustainable investment, it's basically to say that a company or an activity can meet and contribute an E or S objective, and also, and in line with the taxonomy and other regulations, as we understood, they also need to meet the do not significantly harm step to be called a sustainable investment. That's why we need these common regulations to come into force at the same time and to be speaking to each other. Then yes, the principal adverse impacts, as you may know, there are a lot of them, 14 mandatories and other optional, and you need to pick 2 additional optional PAIs. And among them, you will see a lot of PAIs concerning the greenhouse gas emissions, and then also a start to track biodiversity and water negative impacts, and also social and governance issues. And then some interesting news, because it was a busy semester for SFDR regulation. There are 2 main topics that need some highlights. The first one is an ongoing consultation until the 4th of July that is going on. The 2 main takeaways are that there is no ongoing need to have new PIs because it's asking by the market and also asking by other regulations to be consistent, like the taxonomy. So there are new PIs to come. So indeed, there is this need of really tracking the compliance year by year, and we are here for that. And then you will also see new propositions for reporting templates that are adding more clarity, or at least more explanations. You will interpret the clarity as you want. And then, as an interesting topic, there are more information and disclosures on GHG reduction strategies, targets, and periodic reporting. And then, lastly, on the European Commission's response, there is also some Q&As regularly, and the last one was a very important one because the idea was to explain what is a sustainable investment, and actually the explanation is that's on you to decide. So it's a lot about explanations, and really it's on you to make the right choices. to explain really what's your definition of sustainable investments. And then same for the consideration of PEI. So among all of these subjects, there are also articles asking you to describe how do you consider PEIs into your investment strategies and in decisions. And again, it's all about explaining. Really, it's the first step, understanding, explaining how do you deal with adverse impacts. So yeah, a lot to come and to comply with.
Thank you, Raphael. So now, how can SWIP help with this SFDR regulation? So we saw that it's a lot of a data issue, how to collect all these 64 or at least the 14 mandatory principal adverse indicators, how to connect with all these portfolio company in private equity firms where you don't know if you will have access or have answers, and what do you do if no one answers the questionnaire? How do you report? There's no benchmarking like we can see for like listed fund, for example. And as the EU Commission just you know, in their latest answer said that you don't only report on your PAI, but you need to act on your PAI. So as for GHG emissions, you need to set targets to follow, I don't know, an SBTi target to reduce your emissions, but you also need to set targets to improve your impact or reduce harms on, I don't know, set targets on diversity, on biodiversity or social indicators. And that's why we started as a carbon management platform, how to calculate carbon emission, how to set targets, but we made the platform evolve to also like collect, calculate and track all the progress for any KPIs, E, S, and G on the platform, so that you can have a full ESG and sustainability strategy across your portfolio and keep engaging the topics, not only on carbon, but also on other indicators. And it's a team effort because, of course, everybody needs to work together on these targets. So there's 8 steps to be compliant with SFDR. Well, first step is to upload your portfolio on the platform to make sure that you list all your investments by funds, and we will, you know, get all the contacts of the platform. Then you launch the campaign. We develop like ready-to-use questionnaire to make sure that all the questions are nicely asked to your portfolio companies, because I don't know if you read the RTS of the SFDR regulations. It's a very nice bedtime story, but you know, it's very complex. Even the question, if you ask the question straightforward to your portfolio companies, I'm not sure they will answer the question. So that's why we did a lot of work to make sure that this PAI questionnaire makes sense and is adapted to your portfolio companies. Next step is to monitor the campaign. And then, of course, we will show what the platform looks like from an investee journey, which kind of question they will answer. Whenever they answer the surveys, you need to check. Of course, you have to validate the answer, you have to review them, and you need to be able to have all the right information about that. And when you close the campaign, you will communicate and report on your PAI. But clearly, the next step after that, after the report, is to act and set targets. For those who want to go further, of course, our first job was to do carbon footprint. So we can definitely help your portfolio companies to calculate the carbon footprint for free if they don't know how to answer like the 6 first PAIs on GHG emission and energy consumption. So let's deep dive a little bit more. So to launch the survey, to launch the campaign. So you will select ready-to-use surveys on PAI. So you select the investee you want to send the questionnaire to. They will receive an email to open a free account on the platform to secure all the data on their side as well. They will be able to go back to the platform and to have access to their answers along the way or through the campaign, and also for next year, which is good because like next year when they will open the survey again, they will have all the answer they did last year and they can compare and improve the answer. So the idea is like there will be a platform for you investor to have a 360 view of your PAI campaign, but your investee will be committed and engaged as well with their own access to the platform. We're talking about PAI for SFDR, but of course we are an ESG platform also, so we can take care of any ESG standards. So we can look at some frameworks like EDCI, so ESG Data Convergence Initiative, all the marketplace standards like France-IVES questionnaire, Invest Europe questionnaire, any type of regulatory frameworks about ESG criteria can be handled on the platform. You can also add any custom KPI if you have impact funds and you want you have developed your own specific KPIs. You can also add these questions on the platform. Then the part of when you have a lot of portfolio companies, of course, is like a campaign management. I sent a questionnaire to 50 portfolio companies, which one have answered. I'm awaiting data. I know that they opened, but in its progress. My portfolio companies has finished to answer all the questions. Now it's ready for review. And after, when everything is checked, it's reported. But at least you know where you stand. And generally, we can, set up all these parameters at the beginning of the campaign. We can decide together if the reporting time will be 2, 3, 4 months. If we have to send reminder to portfolio company, etc. So we can digitalize the process management as well of the campaign. From the investee journey, so they will have access and they will have, on the left side where they are in terms of questions. When they need to answer, they will be able to view the historical data, for example, here, 2021 to compare to the 2022 questions. They will be able to, assign survey to specific colleagues, because when you talk about E, S, and G, not the same person in the company can have access to all the answers. So you can, work as a team to answer this PEI survey. And you have also to-dos from the investor side, but like, delegation on the investee side. What is key as well is when you check the answer to have a full edit trail and a change log. Who answered the survey, who changed the answer. You can, approve the 14 PAI, or you can reject one and ask questions to your investee to know. Last year they had a water policy, they don't have a water policy this year. Where did you go? And you can store also all the documentation on the platform to get evidence and to also share best practices across your portfolio. So this is very important because it's a lot of declarative information. The more evidence you can store on the platform, the more comments and change log, who answered and who made some changes is very key to make sure that from a regulatory point of view, everything is transparent and verified. Then acts. So here is, for example, it's an example for a target on carbon. You can set some SBTi targets. You can track and generate some initiatives on how to follow up on these initiatives at portfolio level and at portfolio company level as well. But this trajectory can be done on any ESG KPI, on any PAI you may want to set up targets. And then at the end, when everybody has answered and you have validated everything, of course, you will be able to report. So you will have all your PI reports ready to export, ready to communicate by fund, by portfolio, etc. And the same, like, the questions are quite dense in the RTS, but the aggregation rules as well, because there's different aggregation rules per PEI, so the weighted average is not working for all questions. So that's why having some regulatory expertise, carbon expertise, etc., sustainability expertise at SWIP really help you to make sure that all the calculations within the platform are in line with what the EU regulation is asking for, and you can be completely secured about the data you're reporting to. If you want to go further, what I was saying, like the PI questionnaire you just saw, we can also send carbon questionnaires. So the portfolio company using their free account to answer the survey, they can also use this free account to answer a few questions on carbon to start collecting some activity data. And our team will automatically, select the emission factor. And, in a few hours, like the portfolio company can already have a high-level carbon footprint ready to report and ready to share to the investors. That's really key as well, because you are moving from estimates industry benchmarks where, for startups or portfolio company in a private equity fund, especially in Article 9 funds, we are doing better than their benchmark. It's a shame just to use estimates, and we are really pushing forward to have like actual carbon footprint to be reporting with the DSPI, especially if you want to set targets on carbon, and SWIP can help you do that, because we have both the carbon expertise and the sustainability expertise on the platform. And we have a chance to have Leslie join the webinar. So Leslie, I leave you the floor if you want to say a few words as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne, and thank you, Rafael. Thank you for the time today. Just to share a bit of experience as an impact VC fund. So just in a nutshell, Astana, we're an impact VC fund focused on the agri-food sectors. So we invest in Europe and the US, and we've been going on for around 5 years plus. So we were born as an impact fund. So the raison d'être of Astana is to invest in impactful companies that are going to have a positive impact on the people on the planet. And so we were born as focusing on impact creation, but also on ESG, because by definition, we want our portfolio companies to succeed on the long term. And so we want to make sure that they have the right ESG basis. So over the last 5 years, we've been collecting ESG data, a lot of them, not that we want to collect a lot, but because we want to support our portfolio companies on improving their ESG. So we were collecting more or less 100 data points for a VC fund, which can be seen as a lot. But this data, we're not just collecting to tick the box, but because we want to act on this data. We want to use this data because we want to improve the ESG profile of our portfolio companies. And clearly, I will say that the biggest issue over the last 4 or 5 years has been managing this data. At the time, I would have wished that we had a sweep around, 4 or 5 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago, there wasn't anyone really in the space, and today you have tons of them. And the reason why we decided to go with Sweep is because first we knew many of them before they launched even Sweep. So we knew of the quality of the carbon accounting that we will find with Sweep. The beauty is that as we didn't want to push too many platforms to our portfolio companies, we wanted to have one platform that we're going to do carbon accounting and ESG. And when I say ESG is then SFDR and PAI reporting. So really pleased to have been able to manage to get Sweep also on the journey of ESG. So we that's not anymore like a carbon accounting platform, but it's the full shelf of solutions for a VC fund like us. So we can really use Sweep for carbon accounting with high quality data, but we can also use them for ESG improvement, ESG roadmap, and also really helpful for this year for the first time for the PEI that we have to report, knowing that, as you can imagine, being an impact-focused fund, all our funds are Article 9. So that's completely aligned to what we were doing. So if you think about it, when SFDR came around 2 years ago, that wasn't like a big deal in a way to us because we were already collecting many data points. So most of the PEI were already things that we were collecting. Some of them were not exactly there, but not too far. So in a way, it was kind of easy for us to report on the PEI. And that's why, I don't know if you recall, but we were expected to report for the first time last year, and it was pushed. So last year, we already collected all the PEI on Excel at the time. And we realized how difficult it was, because even if some of these PEI were not something we were collecting before, on biodiversity, for instance, because they also weirdly asked. But yes, definitely it's a challenge, the data. And I think like having a platform like Sweep makes a huge difference for us, because we can really easily onboard all our portfolio companies, knowing that we have 40 plus companies. So definitely Excel is unmanageable. More importantly, we have multi-years data. So we want to be able to track this data, as Marianne was just showing as well, over time. So really having a platform is essential. And I wished we had that, 4 years ago when we started collecting all the data. That would have made our life so much easier. But the good news is that is now out there. Clearly this year was a challenge to onboard because it's a lot of data points we wanted to onboard. But I think we will be fully set for next year. And as Rafael mentioned earlier, a lot of those compulsory PAI within environment are linked to carbon accounting. to greenhouse gas emissions. So you need a platform that allow you to really feed these greenhouse gas emissions into the PI as well. So having the two connected makes a huge difference for us. It really made our life easier this year. And I mean, clearly, as I said, as usual, onboarding the data is not straightforward, but I think we're there, and that next year will just be an easy exercise. Our portfolio companies have seen the platform, they've seen the surveys, we receive really good feedback from them on how smooth the process was. So I have no doubt that next year that will be even smoother to go through the exercise.
Well, thank you so much, Leslie, for your testimony. Now, maybe if there is any question open, I think there was a few, but we answer them in the chat. Maybe if there's like additional questions, we can answer them, or I can recall the one that has been asked in the chat. So of course we will share the slides, we will share the recording, we will also share the recording of the CSRD session yesterday. If you want, yeah, as a nutshell, like we can definitely calculate and collect activity data to calculate carbon footprint for your portfolio company, and they can start for free, and they can upgrade if they want like more functionalities on the platform. We will able to have, as Leslie said, everything in one platform to be able to track accurate emissions and to collect all the remaining PAI. Yeah, all the templates are ready to use. So you just go on the platform, upload your portfolio company, click on, I want the PAI templates, and yeah, you start your campaign straight, and we can start like very soon, as soon as you've got the financial information early next year.
And maybe just one thing to add as well. I mean, you might think that sometime embarking young portfolio companies in the carbon accounting journey doesn't make sense. I mean, just to tell you, we invest in Series A and Series B as well as some seeds. In our view, the earlier you embark young portfolio companies on this journey, the best it is, because at the end of the day, they will grow with the right practices from day one. So yes, you might feel a bit cumbersome at the first step, but honestly, the feedback we got is that it's so good for them to, put the right practices into their accounting system to make sure that they collect physical rather than monetary data. So it's never too early to embark on a sustainability journey. And I think that's the feedback we've got from our portfolio companies. I mean, you have some time to think about, okay, they're really still in the lab, in the garage, you're not going to push for that. But as soon as you see that it's often quite earlier than you think, that you should embark them on this journey.
Yeah, no, it's very important, Leslie, because that's how we design the product on Sweep, saying that like small portfolio companies, when they like already focus on developing their product and they don't have like human and financial resources to pay for their carbon footprints, but thanks to their investors and thanks to Astano, they can already start have a first carbon footprint, and then when they grow and they have like more resources, like also human resources, because it takes some time to work on its carbon footprint. But yeah, definitely you can start day one. We do that at Sweep, and we were like very small, like we grow, but last year we started to do our carbon footprint where we were like 10 people. So yeah, definitely the platform can be very flexible to adapt to like small companies and to go to very, very large companies. But that's the beauty of data and the platform. You can mask the complexity, and you can unlock the functionalities when you're ready. Okay, looking if there is like some other questions. Yeah, so if you want to get in touch, if you have any more questions, and it was like quite quick about like Sweep and the platform, but definitely we're happy to deep dive a bit further with you during the call. And thank you so much for your attention and for your participation. And we will send you all the documentation. And thanks again, Leslie, for joining this webinar today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.